Hi, Neil. Hi, Robin.
Hello.
Hi, Sabrina.
Neil, did you get I think I sent the ordinance language through like 3 different vehicles. Did you get them?
I did, and
Oh, good.
they're posted on the website.
Stop doing that.
How is Norm with
Seriously.
Lovely to see you.
Seriously. I'm like, kidding. I'm just relaxing here and I'm just. Hold on, actually.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Jeff.
Hi. We're not having Norm at this meeting?
It's hard to say.
It's weird.
I thought Norm was going to take my place.
Nice try.
Sometimes the names jump around and you go to click on it. It's a different name. That must have been what happened.
Well, Neil, I confess I did not enjoy being the one controlling the technology the other day. I'm very glad that you're with us tonight, among other reasons, but
It is interesting, especially on the big meetings. But
I know.
Well, for what it's worth, Sabrina, you did a great job.
Well, thanks. Neil gave me plenty of great guidance. I still just, it's like another thing you have to think about.
I've managed to avoid so far having to be host.
Hi, everyone.
Hey,
Steven.
Steven. All right. Are we good to go, Neil?
we are good to go.
All right. I will read the right to know meeting checklist. All right. Welcome, everyone. As chair of the Hopkinton Select Board, due to the COVID-19/coronavirus crisis, in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Note, there's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's order. In accordance with the emergency order, we are confirming that we're doing the following. A, we're providing public access to the meeting by phone with additional access via Zoom. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through Zoom. The public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in the meeting through dialing 1-646-558-8656. Meeting ID is 340-316-049. We've also provided a Zoom web address. B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice of how to access this meeting on the Town of Hopkinton's website at www.hopkinton-hampshire.gov and on the Town of Hopkinton's Facebook page as well. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please call 603-746-8242, or you can email townadmin@hopkinton-hampshire.gov. D, we will adjourn the meeting in the event the public is unable to access the meeting and have it rescheduled. There are several things that are helpful to know about tonight. The meeting's being recorded. It'll be available to watch at a later time. The select board's unmuted. Everyone else is muted. If you have a question during the meeting, you can use the raise your hand function. And during public forum, lines will be unmuted to allow people to speak. Note that all votes taken during this meeting have to be done by roll call vote. So we'll start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. Please state your name and whether there is anyone with you, which is required under the right to know law. This is Sabrina Dunlap. I'm alone in my office. Ken.
This is Ken Traum. I am alone.
Anna.
Anna Wells, I'm alone.
Stephen.
Stephen Whitley, I'm alone in this room.
Jeff.
Jeff Donahoe, I'm alone.
All right, thank you. I have to pull up our agenda. I'm on the wrong date. I assume we're starting with points of pride.
Sure, I have two. I just want to thank everyone who took part in town meeting. Believe it or not, it seems like that was forever ago.
Uh-oh, am I frozen or is Neil?
Neil's frozen.
Oh no,
It's not us.
Neil, we
Bro.
lost you. All right, well, while we're waiting for Neil, I will add, I was going to also thank everyone who helped with town election day. And it went really smoothly. We lucked out with some good weather, but you know, no matter how many people show up, I always say it takes a lot of people to put these things together. And I'm hoping it's our last drive-through meeting and that next year we'll be able to gather in person. But anyway, thank you to all the volunteers and the supervisors of the checklists and the town clerk and everybody who was involved, and Neil, obviously. And I did want to say a special shout out to Ken too, because Ken, I just think you do such a great job with the budget. And I know I speak for everyone when I say we really appreciate it. I had quite a few people actually say to me how they thought the way you presented it was really helpful and easy to understand. So thank you for all the work you put into that. So I don't know if anyone else wants to say a point of pride.
Well, let me start, but well, thank you, Sabrina, and I want to share your accolades with Neil, because without Neil, I'd be in trouble in putting this together. And I'd also like to thank everybody who was involved, including, certainly Sarah and Dulcie and everybody else. So thank you, and the rest of the select board that was working on the election day.
Yeah, so Neil, when you froze, I just said thank you to everyone who helped with the election and gave Ken a little shout out for his wonderful work on the budget. And he also was thanking you for helping with the budget process too.
I was going to thank, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was going to thank, I could be in a Verizon commercial. I was going to thank everybody, but also those that helped put together the Lafayette marker dedication. And I want to particularly thank Scott Moran and Greg Roberts from our Buildings and Grounds, who were putting up the new marker, but saw that the old marker was rusty and scraped it down and repainted it and then re-lettered it. So it looked great for the presentation, and that was, thank them for doing that.
Yeah, that was a very nice event. And I know you helped behind the scenes too, Neil, so thank you for that. Anyone else for points of pride? Okay. So first, under administrative, we have election of chair and vice chair. So
Okay, I'll just start it out, maybe short circuit it by saying I nominate Sabrina to be a chair again. I think she did a great job under very trying circumstances this year.
thank you.
I'll
Second.
second that.
All right. I will not vote on this, although I would be very happy to be chair again. So I will call roll call. Ken,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
and I would thank you all. I would like to nominate Ken to be our vice chair. So anyone want to?
Second.
All right. All right. Sabrina's a yes. Anna,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Jeff,
Can I vote better you than me? Yes.
and Ken, do you want to vote for
I'll-
yourself? or-
I'll abstain.
Okay,
But
fair enough.
thank you all.
All right, good. Thank you for making that smooth and easy. All right, so next up we have approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, I'll move we approve the consent agenda of May 16th, May May 10, 2021, and I'll offer to go in to sign.
Second,
All right. Thank you for offering to sign, Ken. All right, Sabrina's yes, Jeff,
yes.
Ken,
Yes,
Anna,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
All right. Next, we have approval of the public meeting minutes of April 12th, 2021.
I'll move those minutes, but note there's an inconsistency on whether or not the non-public meeting minutes are to be sealed, because in the minutes of the public session, it said not sealed, and in the minutes of the non-public, it said sealed.
Right. I'm trying to remember which one.
They were sealed.
Oh, they are actually sealed. Okay, so we can fix that in the wait, so the public minutes say they were not sealed, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we can fix that.
Okay.
Anything else?
That was all I had.
There's also a vote on the last page that says it passed 4-0, but it has everybody as a yes, so.
Good catch. All right. Ken made a motion with those edits and I'll second that. All right, so Sabrina's yes, Jeff,
Yes,
Ken,
Yes,
Anna,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
thank you. All right, so next we have the approval of non-public meeting minutes from April 12th, 2021.
okay, so moved.
Second.
All right, Sabrina's yes, Jeff,
yes,
Ken,
Yes,
Anna,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
thank you. All right. Next up, we have approval of the public meeting minutes from April 22nd, 2021.
so moved.
Second.
second,
All right. Sabrina's a yes, Jeff,
yes,
Ken,
Yes,
Anna,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
All right. What do we have left? Next, we have approval of the public meeting minutes from April 29th, 2021.
so moved.
second,
All right. Sabrina's yes, Jeff,
yes,
Ken,
Yes,
Anna,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all. I think that is it for administrative. So under public hearing category, first up we have at 535 Tonko Kali regarding an Eagle Scout project.
I like glitched or
Hi there.
no, hi. Yeah, something happened.
Thanks for joining us.
So, okay, so I'm
Jump in.
Tonko. Okay, I'm Tonko Kali. I'm a life scout at the troop here in Hopkinton. So I'm thinking about doing my Eagle project after, and my cross country coach suggested making a trail in Houston Fields. So I met with Mr. Cass, Mr. Roberts, and Mr. Klamarzik, and we walked along an area, and we agreed that it would make sense to make it on a berm around the edge of the Houston Field property from fields 2 to 5. It would be about that way, since it's on the berm, it wouldn't, the usual area is usually wetlands. So on the berm, since it's a bit elevated, it wouldn't be as flooded in the spring. At the beginning, where it usually is more flooded, Mr. Klamarzik said I could build a boardwalk, and that would get rid of any kind of flooding issues. It would be about 6 feet wide, or at least big enough to get a tractor in there. Because after I cut down, I would stack all the branches in a pile so that Mr. Roberts could take his tractor and wheel them out. The other kind of work, Mr. Komarzik also said he could cut down the trees. So he could cut down the trees. Mr. Komarzik could take out the brush, because I would mostly be clearing the brush and large bushes. And then there was also, at the beginning part of the flooding issue, was a stream that had been blocked up. So Mr. Komarzik suggested to clear out the trees that were blocking it, to get rid of the water. But I just wanted to know if I could do that in case the neighbors got flooded. But
Great. So anything else to add?
if this does get approved, I would, after submitting it to the Scout Council, I would hope to have it start and finish it some during the summer. And then it could be used by just anyone who would normally walk at the Houston Fields or cross country teams to having more room to walk.
Great. Sounds like a really good project. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I just have a question out of sort of curiosity. Do you know how long a stretch of trail that would be?
I think it was a little bit less than a mile.
Great.
It's straight for a large bit of it, and then it just makes a turn, and it would exit about where that new gravel path exits into Field 5. So it would kind of meet up with there.
I just note that this was an area that Buildings and Grounds had been thinking about a good spot for a trail and hadn't done it. So this is a great opportunity.
Great. And so who would be in charge of upkeep on the trail and the boardwalk? Would that be a Buildings and Grounds thing, or? Yeah.
We would take that on.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like it could be a whole nother Eagle project to put hard pack or something on it later down the line, but once I
Got it.
do it.
Great. Anyone else have questions or comments? All right. So Neil, do we need to just give our okay, or do we need to approve this officially, or?
I think just giving your okay and
Okay. I think
to
we
move
have
forward.
consensus. So great idea, and thanks for coming to present to us, and good luck with the project.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right. Thanks
Thank you.
for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next public hearing is not until 6, so perhaps we could move on in the 13 minutes we have to old business. First up under old business, we have town meeting follow-up with the rental of the Bates Building and then the land at the corner of Courier and Beach Hill Road. So I assume this means we have to talk about next steps for the Bates Building. I would need to go back and refresh my memory on how we left it. I thought that the arts people were planning on, depending on the vote, they were going to come present to us, but I might be mistaken on that. Does anyone else have a memory of where we left this? Or any other general thoughts on next steps?
I do see that Alyssa McCann is on. I don't know if we want to, if she has anything she wants to add to the conversation or,
I think
But
the
I-
question for us in part is, do we want to advertise for other potential users, or do we want to deal with the user that's there now?
Right. And I remember we had agreed to the rent they were paying for the time being, I think just out of sort of simplicity and courtesy sake, but I think we were going to definitely revisit that question too. So so on that baseline question of, do we want to try to advertise this or keep moving forward with the current tenants and talk about things like there's certain improvements have to be made to the building. I think rent is another issue we need to discuss. What are people's thoughts on that?
I think that I've been really happy with what Two Villages has done with the building. But I do think that we should investigate if there are other potential users that are interested. And so I would suggest that I don't know the best way to do it, but I think we should see if there are other users out there that would be interested in renting. And I would definitely invite Two Villages to come forward with what they would do if they were allowed to remain in the building. And then I think that we should talk about rent and building improvements that we'd like whoever is renting it to be responsible for.
I think what Stephen says makes sense. Just another item would be the length of a lease.
Mhm.
Did we approve up to 5 or 10? I forget.
I thought Stephen had indicated by state law we can only go to 5.
Mhm.
so I agree that all of the particulars of a lease going forward obviously need to be worked out, but I am personally comfortable allowing Two Villages to be the occupant going forward without putting it out to others. Because I think, as Stephen said, they've done a great thing there and they've done a great job with the building. It's a fantastic community use and space. And I think I would like to see us as a select board, as a town, support that. So I'm personally comfortable not putting it out, but internally deciding on what we think is a fair and, not necessarily highly profitable, but we do need to cover our costs. We need to figure out what improvements need to be made and have those costs covered somehow. So, but I would like to show that support to Two Villages.
Do we know if they've become an actual nonprofit? That was one of their commitments back in November.
Right. Maybe if
Oh, look,
everyone,
a hand is up.
yeah, I was gonna say maybe we could bring Alyssa over quickly just to answer some of those questions. Hello.
Hey y'all.
Thanks for being here.
Anytime, always a pleasure. Anna, thank you for your kind words. And Stephen, thank you for saying you like what we've done with the building. We really do love it at the Bates Building, and it's been just a phenomenal community experience. I don't know if any of y'all have had the chance to stop by any of our art receptions over the last couple weeks, but we are in the midst of just a gangbuster series of shows that are bringing folks from Vermont, from Massachusetts, from across New Hampshire to Kentucky. And once they're done shopping at Two Villages, the first question they ask me is, where can I go to eat? Where else is there to shop? And so I do want to point out to the select board that something we offer is that we are drawing in people from across New England who then want to go and spend their money in the rest of Kentucky and are looking to us to ask, where do we go next? So some things about Two Villages Art Society since last we talked to you in the fall. We are officially a 501(c) organization. We've been recognized by the government. We're a nonprofit here in New Hampshire. We have an entirely volunteer board of directors running our day-to-day operations. We are supported almost entirely by membership. We have around 125 members right now who, through their membership fees and donations, are the ones paying our rent to you guys at this moment. Our members haven't only kept our rent going to you, they've also donated to put up an exhibition wall at the town hall. So if you've popped over to town hall lately, you may have noticed there's a new beautiful art wall over there donated through our members. We've also hooked up with the Chamber of Commerce and the Hopkinton School District, and we're currently helping put on Celebration of the Arts, which is taking place at Town Hall, on the Story Walk, behind the library, as well as all the businesses in Kentucky. Myself, along with Leanne Vance and Meredith Lee and the rest of the Chamber of Commerce, are currently planning to bring back Art on the Porch this October. So we're in the midst of putting that together. Look forward to radio ads, print advertisement, as we seek to draw people to Kentucky to spend money here in our town and support our local businesses and artists. And so I want you to know that Two Villages loves being at the Bates Building, but we aren't just the Bates Building. The Bates Building is where we are right now, and we want to keep calling Hopkinton and Kentucky home. But our organization has gotten so much bigger in the last couple of months since we last saw you. And we see clearly that our role is bringing folks to the town to not only spend money with local artists, but to then visit the other businesses that are here and spend money there. Right now, if you have a chance to pop over, we have Abenaki People Emerging from the Ashes, which is a collaboration with the Abenaki Trails Project here in New Hampshire in Hopkinton and Kentucky, as well as in partnership with New England College, Hopkinton Historical Society, Mount Kearsarge Indian Museum, and it's sponsored by New England College. They're the ones writing our rent check this month, but it means that 100% of what we would normally take as commission to pay our rent is going back into the Abenaki community. And as you may or may not know, we actually have a fairly large Abenaki community that isn't recognized here in New Hampshire. And so part of our goal isn't just to support local artists, but it's to support local communities that have faced erasure over time. So all that to say, like, we've been really thrilled with what we've done over the last couple months. We founded in October of 2020, and to see where we are today and how far we've come, we want to be your partners in the Bates Building. We'd like to pay a fair rent that allows us to help cover those costs. We'd like to work with you to look for grants, to raise money for bigger projects, as well as to make improvements using the awesome artists who are part of our membership, who have already come forward to put forward a really great sign. They're working on the window boxes or talk about improvement to the floor and the lighting in the building, that they're all willing to donate their time and money for. But to do that, we need to make sure that our costs are reasonable, that all of our money isn't going directly into rent, or if it is, that you're willing to then budget for those improvements in the space that are needed to keep it alive and well. As you know, there's just things about, for instance, the sidewalk that are unsafe for wheelchairs right now that we want to work with you on because we want it to be an accessible building. I could go on and on and on. I could literally talk your ears off about the shows we've done, the shows we're going to do. We have artists lined up through 2022 to do shows right now. I've been asked about 2023. And so we would be excited to be a long-term tenant in the Bates Building. If you have any questions about Two Villages, please let me know. I can give you some really high-level things about our financial overview. But suffice it to say, there's no one on payroll. All the money that we're taking in is going either back to the artists, into the building or our bills, or into our advertising. And that's the way we like it. We want to make sure that money is going back into the community.
Thank you, Alyssa. That was super helpful. So we answered the one question of whether or not you'd formed an official nonprofit and had sort of a plan moving forward. And I think you answered that and then some. But I haven't been able to get over there to check anything out, although I did go to one of the original shows pre-COVID that had kids artwork, which was really awesome. But I love to hear what you're doing with the Abenaki Trails folks and your plans. They sound great. So thank you for popping over. Does anyone else have any specific questions for Alyssa right now?
I did want to add, because I forgot to mention this, that we also have shows scheduled at Town Hall through the rest of the year, and we are booking into 2022 as well. So our goal is to schedule and program as many arts locations as we can get our hands on in Hopkinton. So if you know of a blank wall somewhere that needs some art, shoot me an email. And we're also partnering with the library and putting out their call for art. So we're using our network to ensure that anywhere that anyone is looking to make connection with artists, we can make that connection.
That's great. And so are you the person who we should be in contact with in terms of if we decide to move forward and try to and renegotiate or negotiate like an actual lease? Because I think we're just on a...
No, you're 100% right. It's not renegotiate. It's negotiate an actual lease, which would be so lovely to have something on paper. Yes, I'm functioning as the president of the board of directors. We have a really awesome and active board. And so the chair of our board is Ruth Chevion, formerly of the House of Art. We also have Kathleen Dustin, Parker Potter, Eric Paulson, Lori Morrissey, and Laura Morgan, who round out our board, a mixture of artists and non-artists. And I have to say that Lori Morrissey has been a force to be reckoned with on the marketing side. You may have seen some of our articles in the Concord Monitor, and that's all thanks to Lori, who's been getting the word out there for us.
Great. All right. So
I was just, Sabrina, if I may, I was just going to give a shout out to Alyssa and to Ruth that they will be speaking on May 26th at Rotary. So that if anybody on the board or was listening in is interested in joining that meeting, please let Neil or myself know.
And Ken, we're so excited. We were so honored when we got the email. Ruth and I were like, what are we going to say? We're still working on it. We're going to make it really worth your time. But we were checking with, I think it was Donna who reached out to us, but we were checking to make sure, can it be a dialogue? Because what we want to do when we talk to the Rotary is find out, what do you want to see in an arts organization? How do you want to bring arts to life in the town? Because so far, Two Villages has been driven really by our members. We've been putting out member surveys and getting emails and requests directly from our members. We also have monthly member meetups that are remote, that are run by our members. And so last month, Kathleen Dustin ran one about how to sell online during the pandemic. This month, Laura Johnson of Design 645, who's down in Kentucky, is going to lead one on choosing and displaying art in your home. So if you, like the rest of us, have been like, well, my walls need some art on them, please come to this meetup. It's open to the community and the public. And it's just a chance to chat about, like, what art do you put in your bathroom? What art do you put in your kitchen? How do you group art together? And they're really open and fun. So hope you guys can join us.
That's awesome. Alyssa, thank you so much. So it's 6 o'clock. So I'm going to put a pin in this and go over to our other notice public hearing at 6. But thank you. And we'll pick this back up on the other side of our other public hearings.
I'll be here if you guys need me.
Thank you. All right. So it's 6 o'clock. And that brings us to our public hearing on the sewer rate increase. So I don't know, do we have anything to show right now or?
Yes.
Okay.
I can.
And this is something, I mean, I don't know if Ken or Jeff or Neil wants to speak in more detail on this, but just high level, we had not reviewed rates since 2017, I believe. And we think the new proposed rates are well within sort of what we would consider reasonable and I think comparable to other sewage rates in other places. So I don't know if others want to make any comments on this.
Sure, I can jump in, and Neil and I did have a discussion about this earlier today. I think that the sewer rates are actually low, or lower certainly than most municipal sewer systems around. What the rates are covering currently is what I'll call the operating expenses of the system. whereas the capital costs of the system were being paid by all of the property taxpayers in town. And back during budget season, the board thought that that was inappropriate, that let's say at least the bulk of the capital costs should be picked up by the users of the system. And what Neil has put together would result in about $33,000 of additional annual revenue, which would be going to cover capital costs. And over the long term, that should probably be sufficient. The annual revenues that are being collected now are, there's not much of a surplus, if any, collected there. They pretty much level out with expenses. So this would raise the about $33,000 more. There are 217 sewer customers currently. I don't know, Neil, if you had anything you wanted to add to that.
No, that pretty much covers it. Pretty much the operating costs are covered by current rates. They haven't been raised since 2017. What this does is it adds $40 to the base rate that everyone pays. And also adds a rate for the first 9,000 gallons, which have not been charged for, and then increases slightly the rate for everything over 9,000.
All right. Thank you guys for that overview.
I do see that Sam Currier, our superintendent of water and sewer, is on. I don't know if he has anything to add.
Sam, if you want to speak on this, feel free to raise your hand. Oh. Hi, Sam.
How's it going? As of right now, all I have to say is it does look like more realistic numbers compared to other villages and districts. And if there's any questions about how we can work this towards covering the capital costs, I'm here to answer any questions if they do arise.
Thank you. All right, so we don't have a ton of people with us tonight, but if anyone wants to comment or speak on this sewer rate issue, this is your opportunity, since this is the public hearing on the rates. So going once, going twice. All right, doesn't look like we have any public comments on this issue. So I will close that public hearing. And Neil, do we need to vote on anything right now?
Yes, and then if you can vote to adopt the new rates.
Okay.
I move that we adopt the proposed sewer increased rates.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, great. Sabrina's yes. Ken?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Steven?
Yes.
All right. Anything else on that front, Neil?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you all who worked on this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Okay, so it's 6:07. We can, I think, jump back to old business and pick up on the rental of Bates again. So Stephen, your comment was that you'd be something to the effect of open to seeing if anyone else is interested. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I appreciate everything that Alyssa mentioned, and I don't disagree with any of it. But I do think that I at least would like to do some due diligence and just see, what other entity might be interested. And I don't mean that to be, I'm thinking only of dollars and cents, because I recognize that what Two Villages has done and probably would continue to do has a great deal of value to the town, even if we don't, make money at the end of the day. But I do think it's worth at least exploring what interest is out there. And at the same time, I would expect and hope that we would keep a dialogue with Two Villages and learn a little bit more about, what their finances allow them to cover in terms of rent, and also to start a conversation with them about, what improvements to the building they would like to pursue if we end up doing the lease with them.
Okay. When you say due diligence, so I'm just trying to figure out like what this looks like, because I think there's different levels of sort of how aggressive we want to be on that front. So are you thinking like poke around, people talk about it and see if they hear anything, or like?
I don't have a real kind of firm idea of what the next steps are. If we want to solicit for, other people to lease, I don't know if it is as formal as a request for proposal that we put out, which we could certainly do, or if it's just kind of a word of mouth type thing, or both. I really don't know. So that's a good question, but I don't have an idea in mind.
I don't think we necessarily want to do a request for proposals so much as a request for expressions of interest, which is sort of a higher level, less demanding on the people responding, less demanding on us in terms of reviewing it. Those are all considerations. At some point, it's not on this list today, but we need to talk about the Horseshoe Tavern as well.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the land at the corner of Curry and Beach Hill.
That is correct. That's also on our list tonight.
So the market's great. We're in the real estate business.
So Jeff, on the request for expression of interest, do you have experience with that, or do you have like any more detail you can add to what that looks like?
I sure I have 5 or 10 of them somewhere. I will pull them up and prepare, sort of an overview for the group for the next meeting.
So does anyone, it sounds like we probably have consensus on moving forward with something like that, just to see if there's anyone else interested. But I agree with Stephen, continuing the conversation with Alyssa and Two Villages to see, that's obviously a path we could take too. So keep that conversation going, and so that we don't stall out on.
One of the issues for us as a group, I think, is the restrictions on the building. I recall that there's some sort of charitable trust issues, or we need to consider the user in creating a lease for the building. And obviously Alyssa's group fits that bill.
I was just about to ask that, actually, that there is a restriction on using it for public good, right? So
yeah,
to think about what types of uses we would consider, and are there definitions of that, or is that up to us to determine? I think that's right. And I mean, that's another reason why I personally, I honestly don't think we need to go through the process. I think that I can't envision a better fit for the space and for the definition of a public use or public good than what's there now. And I don't know that we need to go through the process ourselves or put Two Villages through the process and through that work to come back in the end and say, okay, yep, you are the best use for this space, as long as you can meet, the rent requirements and that's something that we have to figure out internally. I mean, I think we need to figure that out. what I would like to do is figure out what we think is a decent rent, offer it to Two Villages. And if they feel they can't meet that, then perhaps we go out for those expressions of interest. But I really think, I mean, Alyssa's comments for me just reinforced my feeling that they are such a force right now. They have so much good going on. That this could be a real, and it is, and she's described it as such a synergistic relationship with the town, building that economic development piece, supporting our artists in town. There's so much good happening there that I just don't see why we would.
I think we need to have Neil ask town council if there's a requirement for competitive procurement, because most public lease type activities have to have a competitive procurement.
Okay. Well, that would be an issue then.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I'm not sure if my favorite board related attorney down in the lower left of my screen might have an opinion of that, although he wouldn't be giving us legal advice. But that's a concern, that's all.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. Neil, do you have any?
I could, and I could get corrected. I think you've been charged to do what's in the best interest of the town. I think if you decide to do an RFP, for example, you need to go with the one that provides, well, if you put something out, once you put something out to bid, for example, you have to take the lowest qualified bidder. But if you don't put it out to bid and look at quotes, you have more flexibility. So.
And Neil's frozen again.
Neil froze.
Need some broadband improvement at town hall.
I remember.
Town hall,
Interested.
There we are.
He's back.
Good. I was gonna say, we talked about this a little bit. I think, I forget what year it was, 2019. But I think because we were doing like a sort of month to month, we fumbled along. Uh-oh. Neil, you're frozen again. Stephen,
Yeah.
do you have any non-legal thoughts on this?
Share your knowledge, Stephen, not give legal advice.
I think that, checking in with town council is probably the best way to answer some of those questions. And I think that that's a good thing for us to bear in mind as we think about how to go forward.
So maybe we can verify, because I sort of fall somewhere in between, I guess. I think if we don't have to go through it and we can agree on a reasonable price with this group, that would be wonderful. And I think save everyone kind of a lot of time and energy. But if it is something we need to do as like a procurement issue, obviously then we need to do it. But I'm wondering, since I've never dealt with requests for expression of interests, I don't know if that's like some sort of looser standard where we wouldn't be stuck with accepting, excuse me, like the lowest, whatever Neil's language was. If we do an RFP, then we're stuck with, going with whoever comes in the highest or whatever the metric is. So I guess just getting some clarity around, do we have to do something like officially? And then if yes, could we do something like a request for expression of interest, and what does that entail? And I guess then if the answer is no from council, that that it's up to us, we can decide to do sort of an official procurement process or not, then decide if we want to go through that on our own accord or move forward with trying to figure out, a reasonable rent and sort of issues around improvement with Two Villages. So, because I agree with Anna. I mean, I think they're doing great work. And if part of our analysis is benefit to the town and public good, and Alyssa makes a great case for how they're bringing in people to town. And it seems like, a great fit all around. And so if we could agree on terms and pricing, it would be great, to move forward with them. But anyway, I guess we can put a pin in this until we get advice from council.
I will get that.
Okay.
I think we should also, sorry, Brittany, just clarify what that charitable trust restriction is, because it's been described just in this call as, I think, 2 or 3 different things. And we need to just make sure we have the right language, because public use and public good and public purpose all could mean slightly different things that could be really material to whatever our ultimate decision is.
Yeah, I think the language was actually, because I'm the one who had the conversation with the DOJ, the Charitable Trust Division on this, when I was asking about the length of the lease situation and whether or not it needed to go to town meeting. I think it's in, what was it, the 1999 order? I can't remember. We have the language though. And it is quite broad. So I think it's up to us to interpret it, but I'll have to dig out those documents because I know we've looked at them before. And I'll review my notes from when I talked to Tom Donovan at the DOJ. I see Alyssa's hand is up. We can bring her over quickly in case she wants to clarify or ask a question. Hello, Alyssa.
Thank you. We're approaching toddler dinner and bedtime, so I have to hop off in a moment. For anyone that has or had an 18-month-old, you know what I'm talking about. Sesame Street's in full blast right now. I just wanted to say thank you to each of you for the due diligence you're taking, for the many ways that you're looking at this. And I want you to know that we're here for whatever the process is. I am hopeful that we will be the organization, because we love giving back to the town and we want this town to be our home. And there's so much about Two Villages as intertwined with Contoocook and Hopkinton and the projects that we're working on. But I just want to say thank you for how hard you're thinking about how to approach this. And it's a hard process and it's an unknown process. So just saying thank you. Neil has my contact information. I'm happy to provide any other additional information or come to any other meetings just to chat about what we're doing or our financials. Just give me a warning. It takes me a moment to pull them because we are entirely volunteer to make sure all the money goes back into the project. But yeah, thank you again.
Okay.
And good
Awesome.
luck with
Thank
figuring
you,
it all out.
Alyssa. We appreciate it. And in the meantime, keep up the great work. So thank you for being with us and sharing your thoughts on this. All right, so more to come on Bates. Sorry, Ken, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, I'm thinking in terms of keeping the ball rolling. If our council indicates that we don't have to deal with anybody else, do we want to put the Art Center, Art Society on the agenda again in 2 weeks?
I think that makes sense. And then we also have to figure out our own process of determining what we think is a fair rental rate, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if that should be in closed session or not.
Yeah.
I guess I would just ask, we can wait and hear, we are going to wait and hear what town council says. And, you know, the answer may be, yeah, we're legally required to go through the procurement process, and it could be, no, we're not. You know, is the sentiment of the board that if we're not legally required to do that, that we're just going to negotiate with Two Villages? Because I mean, even if we're not legally obligated to do it, we could still decide to see what else is out there.
Yeah. Good question. So I think I know where Anna lands on that. Ken, if we aren't required, do you have?
I guess I'd, like us to figure out what say we would want for a rent and if they can meet it or not. And that might be a threshold issue.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, how about you? Do you have?
Yeah, I mean, when we discussed this back in the fall, that was something that I heard loud and clear from Alyssa, which is we don't know if we could pay, what level of rent we can pay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, to me, a material issue for us. We don't want to be, we're losing money on the building now. You say it however you want, but we're not covering our costs. And so, as stewards of the town, we can't really continue to do that. We need to get something that is a positive cash flow for the town. Or at least we should, in my opinion. And so, once we get that decision, I think we'll be able to, if we're allowed to negotiate exclusively with Two Villages, then we'll need a proposal from them. And we'll evaluate that proposal and say, yeah, it's a good idea, or no, it's not.
Okay, so it sounds like at least a majority of us would be okay if we aren't required to go through a formal process, then at least moving forward with Two Villages to see if we can come to terms that make sense. And I agree with you, Jeff, that we need to, we need to make a decision that makes financial sense. But also there is the element of balancing sort of like the good to the town too. So it sounds like in terms of the question of do we put them on the next agenda, I guess we can wait and see what town council says. And then if we don't have to do a formal process, would everyone be all right with, I don't know who, I'm happy to do it, or Neil reaching out to Alyssa and saying, give us what you think is a fair proposal for price?
In other terms.
In other terms, yeah. Is everyone okay with that?
I'm fine with that. I mean, to Ken's point, I'm fine to do it that way as kind of a threshold matter. And then if we're not able to, kind of be comfortable with what they can do, then maybe more proactively looking at what else is out there.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like we can see what council says, decide if we're going to be able to reach out to Two Villages and have them prepare something, and we can decide later if it makes sense to have them on the agenda and go from there. Okay.
That sounds reasonable. So I'll reach out to council. If council says we don't have to go through a procurement process, then I'll reach out to Alyssa and ask them to prepare a proposal for the board. And if they have that ready and can present that at the next meeting, they'll be on the agenda.
Excellent. Thank you.
Do we-
Okay. Perfect
Do we
summary.
not want to come up internally with what we think we need in terms of rent? I mean, it feels, I don't,
Alyssa's hand is back up and
order of operations is a little, could go either way, I guess. But I think that just one other thing to remember is that the town is still using the building as well. And we need to factor that into whatever number and whatever repairs. And so let's just remember that too. And we still are using the basement.
Stephen, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I was thinking that, we would do both. We would see
Yeah.
what their proposal is, but also, start thinking about what we would expect.
Yeah,
And
that's what I was gonna
hopefully-
say too.
Hopefully those numbers are, pretty darn close to each other.
Let's bring Alyssa over one more time, just in case she has one last thing to add before she's off. Alyssa, you're with us again. Hi.
Hi. Okay, there we go. I was gonna say, y'all, just tell us what the rent is that is needed, because I will say I'm feeling a little stuck with this idea of me throwing a dart at a dartboard without necessarily knowing what your expectations are. And because of the energy between Two Villages and the town, that we are bringing business into the town, that we're doing all of these extra things that can't necessarily be quantified, though I can take a stab at it if you'd like. But we just want to know what do y'all need to make the building run, and how do we want to partner in fixing up the building and in making those improvements? And let's negotiate from there. And if we can't meet the obligations that y'all need to keep the building in good repair, then by all means, open it up and see if you can get someone else and go through that process. And if you can't, then come back to us. But I would say it makes me a little anxious to throw a dart at a board and try to guess what this group is thinking, versus knowing what rent would mean that the town isn't losing money or is able to invest in improvements to the boiler or the windows or the roof or the parking lot, right? So that's my only
That's-
request.
That's a
is-
fair comment.
I was like, I
appreciate
don't
that
think I can come
perspective.
up with that.
Yeah. So thank you, Alyssa. So I think what we'll do is I think it doesn't change our process here, except that if we get the green light to sort of move forward as we please, I am sort of in Anna's camp here too, that I'm happy for us to try to drill down on like what we think is reasonable, and see if they can meet it. Because I do appreciate, the perspective that they want to be there and they want to, hit the same number as us. And so it probably does make more sense for us to say, here's what you need to meet, and see if they can meet it.
I think there are a lot of variables that maybe they aren't fully aware of either. Like we need to think of what they
Right.
are. We haven't quite quantified all of that.
Yeah, that's true.
It seems really unfair to ask them to come up with a number when, there are a lot of things that we need to take into account they don't even know about.
So if we're trying to figure out, let's assume that we can move forward and don't have to do an official process, although I guess either way. But so in terms of trying to like determine what a fair rent would be, Neil, I can't remember going through this before. I mean, is it the kind of thing where you would present to us and we would talk about, I mean, I assume this would be in non-public because it's tied to potential negotiations, but okay. So, all right. So it sounds like we will get our answer. And assuming we can move forward with Two Villages, I think maybe we need to, we'll just have to put a non-public on for us to discuss where we can land in terms of what we think is reasonable for rent, and then go back to them. And that's all assuming that we don't need to do like an official process on this. Okay, so everyone clear on this? I think we're still heading in the same direction as Neil's summary. Okay, so that brings us to our last public hearing, which is Dan Blanchette and Matt Monahan regarding infrastructure projects.
Just an appointment, not a public hearing.
Oh,
That's fine.
they're all under public hearing.
Yeah.
Sorry, appointment, my bad, appointment.
So I'm Matt Monahan from Economic Development, and Danny is here as well. And just a little background. So there was 2 weeks ago, so like the last week of April vacation, I was actually on vacation myself. We had a email we received at the Planning Commission from Senator Shaheen's office, and they were looking for kind of a list of potential projects that could work for the upcoming infrastructure bill.
Uh-oh, Matt. We lost you. Hi, Dan. Matt,
Do you want me to, I can maybe fill in. some of
sure,
the-
if you don't mind, Stephen.
comes back. So Senator Shaheen's office reached out. Matt brought that to the EDC, and we had a conversation thinking of, what sorts of projects would we like to see these funds go towards. And, we had some ideas, but we wanted to loop in Dan and get his input. And we also wanted this board. We also thought that this would be the more appropriate board to make that decision. And so Matt was going to hopefully get more details from Senator Shaheen's office, which I believe he did just under the wire here, and also have a conversation with Dan about the sorts of projects in town that are shovel ready or pretty close to shovel ready, and just get some other input from him. And so that's kind of the genesis for the appointment with Matt and Dan here, is for us to talk about kind of the wish list of projects and try to put an order of priority on them if we can. And also to hear from Matt about, what sort of projects is Senator Shaheen's office looking for, because that could, by process of elimination, really winnow it down to a smaller sort of universe that we need to choose between.
Yeah, Stephen, thank you. I lost you guys for a sec. I don't know what happened there, but I have suspect broadband. I will be the first to admit it. That's why my camera's off. It tends to be better when I leave it off. But that being said, yeah, so EDC was looking at a few projects. We had a brainstorming session, and then I chatted with Dan after that, and we kind of talked about some potential projects and some potential pricing. And as Stephen just mentioned, I did hear back from Senator's office kind of this afternoon. And basically, kind of in a nutshell, their guidance to me was based on kind of the ARA money and that process 10 years ago as kind of a frame of reference. So just to kind of go through some bullets. So last time, they did some road and bridge infrastructure requests. And I'll describe the projects after I kind of go through their what they told me here. So, and we did have some that we had that Dan had suggested that road bridge infrastructure projects. Their projects ranged from about $80,000 to $15 million. So it was huge, broad range of prices. And that the average was $500,000 to $500,000 to about $2 million. One thing they did say is that they're going to look to rank the proposals to kind of prioritize. And this is their whole master list that they're going to come up with kind of at the end of the solicitation process. They want to make sure they've got good geographic representation for projects across the state. They're also looking for letters of support from community stakeholders. So that, we'll be able to chase those down. It shouldn't be too bad there. They want to be able to show breadth and depth of impact and have things, be implemented sooner rather than later. So that gets you kind of the more urgent type projects. They said they don't have to necessarily be shovel ready per se, but they want to do stuff quicker, right? And if you think, hey, they're ranking these things, they're going to look for projects that are more ready sooner and have a larger impact. So I think those are kind of the guidelines that we're going to try and look at these projects with. And when Dan and I were talking, we were just kind of generating a big list, knowing full well that we'd be getting into this aspect of it here. And like Stephen said, to kind of call it down from there and put, a couple in. So with that information there, the list of projects that we had kind of talked about, Dan and I the other day, I'm going to just kind of go through them here. And Dan, just jump in at any time if you want to add or expand on them, or if I got anything kind of off in my description here. So the first one, Tyler Bridge on Pennacook Road, looking at kind of improving that, and basically it's, it's a significant need. The other one is teeing up the intersection at 202 and 103 in the village there. That one, could incorporate, you can kind of go out and start thinking about streetscape and landscaping and those kinds of things. So like a nice village project. So that could kind of be that. Another one is the covered bridge needs to be redecked. And that's about 50 grand or so. And if you look at kind of the low end of what the senator's office suggested at 80 grand or so, that could be a good one to put in as well. Broad Cove, there are culverts there that exceed they're about 12 feet. So they're technically bridges, and those, as you guys know, need to be basically replaced. And those could be of significant cost. Broad Cove is about $500,000, it looks like, and East Pennacook is about 600, and that culvert would be in the same boat. And a final one could be sidewalks, kind of Maple Street, just in general terms, maybe some Hopkinton Village stuff. That's kind of a brief overview, but again, just kind of looking at what they're going to be seeing here. They want to rank them thinking big impact. So, you know, I just kind of turn it over to you guys for discussion, and Dan, I guess jump in anywhere. But bottom line is, I guess that's kind of what they're looking for. Impact, kind of broad-based impact as soon as they can. And it looks like the list of projects we have kind of fit in the model what they did last time, but we probably have to trim it down, thinking about how they're going to rank them.
I'll just jump in real quick. Tyler Bridge, the engineering design should be done by the middle or end of this week. So that one is ready to go, but I am not waiting for government money that may or may not come, because I think I have to put steel plates over the abutment because the metal expansion joint is actually moving every time a car goes over it, and you can see through the bridge at this point. Rowell Bridge, I don't know if you want to include that with this type of work. I mean, the money's in CIP to do that now, and that's that 50,000 cost is with us supplying the lumber, which I was going to purchase off a local logger and have a local sawmill saw it out. If you go with this kind of money, I don't know if they would frown upon doing it that way, which means we'd have to buy pre-sawn lumber, I would imagine, and it's going to drive the price up at least $20,000. Broad Cove and East Pennacook, the very large culverts / bridges, I put into the Bridge Aid program. They're not bad right now to the extent like Briar Hill was. I'm guessing in 10 years they'll be at that point. So I don't know if you guys discuss if you want to do those now, which is fine by me. And also, I don't know if Matt thinks we should do it or not, but we could definitely rebuild Briar Hill, because that's going to be an expensive price tag for that job. That's all I got.
Can I ask you a quick question, Matt?
Yeah, I think I just, sure, Anna, Dan, I forgot to mention Briar Hill. Thank you for that. Yep.
Oh,
I'm ready.
we have Gould Hill as well that needs to be rebuilt.
Yeah, that's right too.
When you say rebuilt, does that mean like?
So that means pavement ground up, all the culverts replaced, gravel hauled in, any stuff like that.
Okay.
Put in, and then repaved the first year, let it sit for 1 year, and then do a top coat the following year.
Okay, thanks.
What's the budget for each of those, if you have it, Dan?
Excuse me?
What's the budget for each of those, if you have it?
It's just a guess at this point. But Briar Hill, just the asphalt is probably going to run us around 400,000 just for a base layer or more. And then I'd have to figure in all the culverts and gravel material. And I don't know, just a rough estimate would probably be somewhere around at least 100,000 for that stuff. And that's not including our time to do it. If you hired it out, that price is going to go up a lot.
And then another 400 for the finish coat a year later?
Not that much. It should be a little bit less, probably around 300.
Okay, thanks.
Matt, this
my
is,
question for you is whether you got any guidance around whether water and sewer infrastructure can fall under this program.
I think short answer is yes, but I know we have the study kind of on our list. So I get the sense that that may not be as far along as what they may be looking for, and it may rank lower on their list of priorities when they develop it. But water and sewer definitely are things that they've indicated that, you know, they've been done in the past with ARA funding.
Yeah. I think in terms of
Matt,
impact,
how would that,
go ahead, Dan.
how would that work where the water department is like separate from the town? They're their own little entity.
That's a good question. I would think at the very least their board would need to be on board with whatever kind of we came up with and submitted an application for.
Yeah,
but
because
I think,
we have Cedar Street that also needs to be rebuilt, but we kind of wanted to do the water line and check the sewer as we were doing that road.
right. Yeah, I mean, I think if it sounds to me what they're basically saying, it's a wide range of things that, you know, on the back end of this, you know, that can start being addressed quickly. But
Yeah.
it's how do we fold into that ranking system that's going to be the key to this, I think. And I think just kind of for those familiar with kind of the 10-year transportation planning process, that I'm not a transportation guy, but I know that Dean and those guys, you know, there's a ranking system and they look at how those things impact, you know, in like different criteria, and then they just rank them, and that's how they're folded in. So it seems to me like it may be a similar scenario. So I think in theory, anything could work, but it's how it scores at the end of the day based on readiness and impact. So I think, yeah, Dan, that could be one, but we'd have to look at how we could spin the impact piece.
Yeah, that'd be a little bit further down the road project, but definitely Tyler Bridge and Briar Hill are definitely shovel ready. We could start tomorrow,
Okay.
basically. And have a big impact as well. Gould Hill is shovel ready, but not quite as big of an impact. Where Briar Hill is a major through road.
So I'm thinking about Gould Hill, and I know in the application, like I could kind of spin the economic impact of the orchard up there. And I think, you know, this fall when I was up there, I just remember it's getting so huge up there. It's crazy. And I think that to me, you can have a tie on the economic side. I don't know. And I think that's kind of what I would look to kind of talk to people about on these different projects, just to kind of see, like thinking about that, you know, how do you frame the impacts beyond just kind of the what we got there. But I mean, Briar Hill, I mean, that could work too, definitely. What does everybody think about the 202 Route 3 kind of teeing up that intersection and kind of the pedestrian infrastructure and streetscape and that kind of project?
I'd love to see it done. I just don't think it's going to meet the impact criteria, and I don't think it's going to meet the, it feels small. I mean, I would love for it to be done, but it doesn't feel
too Hopkinton specific, maybe.
Say that again.
Too Hopkinton specific, maybe.
Right. I mean, I think I said it at the EDC meeting too. It just feels like a hyper local space.
Yeah.
So it's not, you know, Tyler Bridge, you know, is the border of Warner. It's the only way to cross the river for miles. Talking about Briar Hill and Gould being these major connectors between, you know, a Hopkinton Village, Kentucky and beyond. And then for me personally, thinking about water sewer extension, tying that into Cedar Street, I think has a massive economic development impact. And that feels like what this is designed for, and feels like we could not spin, but it feels like we could make the argument much more strongly for those than really any of the others.
Speaking as a taxpayer with some inside info on the road situation in Hopkins, I'd rather see the money spent on town Hopkinen roads, not state Hopkinen roads.
Mhm.
The state's got enough money. I'd rather worry about our own roads personally.
Okay, this is Ken. I have a question. The American Rescue Plan specifically mentions water and sewer infrastructure. So do you think that they're going to duplicate it in this other?
I just know kind of the general description that I received of kind of what they're looking for. Just kind of going back on those notes. I mean, yeah, those ARA funds, if I remember right, I mean, they had a wide range of stuff in there as well. I mean, I think if I can make, so I'm looking at Tyler Bridge, Briar Hill, Gould, and Cedar, just kind of water sewer. I say put all four of them in. I mean, the worst that can happen is they're gonna say, you know, none make the list or all make the list or wherever they fall. You know, I could on that Cedar Street water and sewer piece, where is that at, I guess, in terms of the shovel ready aspect of things?
Not really very shovel ready.
Okay.
Probably at least a year out, maybe two. I'd have to talk to the precinct about where they stand. If they could be ready to go quickly. I can't answer for them. I don't know.
Yeah, and here's the language that she got back to me with is Congress will want to be able to see these impacts, see the impact these dollars will have sooner rather than later. But she doesn't use she says they don't have to be shovel ready, but sooner rather than later. I wonder if 1 year could be in their timeline. I think maybe just kind of thinking about it, they probably want to be able to show something kind of fall September 2022, go heading into the midterm, say, hey, look, here's what we have. Like, I would imagine that's probably their horizon, just thinking about it.
Yeah.
I would like to see, I mean, it sounds like from Dan that we can't really wait for Taylor Bridge. I mean, that needs to happen, you know, immediately.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
So I think that we shouldn't even include that one in this list. And I'd like to see the Cedar Street project replace Taylor Bridge, because in the off chance that they'll green light that would be amazing.
Oh yeah. Okay.
If we knew we were getting the money, then I could probably hold off till next year to do Tyler Bridge. I mean, I'm gonna have to do put the plates over the expansion joint, like I said, but I would rather have the government give us that money. Let's fix the bridge with that. Then I can take the rest of the road bond and put it towards other things that I need to get done, because after this bridge, I don't have much left.
Right.
Just thinking about the process and the timeline, I'm imagining, I mean, I know how long it's taking just at the state level to go through and rank transportation projects is months at a time. Yeah. So I can't imagine at the federal level, with all of the states, you know, competing for this money, how long it's going to take for them to go through and rank all these projects and think about regional distribution and everything. I mean, I can't see that this is, they're not going to make an announcement, you know, in a couple of months. They're going to make an announcement of who gets the funding like in the fall. And then, you know, a year feels like just about the right amount of time, actually.
Yeah, there is the possibility that we cannot get a contractor for Tyler Bridge this summer. So there's that in there as well. So at that point, we may have to wait a year, even though I don't want to.
Yeah, those are both great points. I mean, you know, just thinking about my small regional planning commission mind with these projects and knowing how long that ranking takes, and it's 20 communities, right? And oh gosh, yeah. And this is a question we had at EDC. Like, one of the members said, hey, how are they gonna do this? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe each state comes up with a ranking, maybe the whole Senate as a whole and the House as a whole, and then maybe it's in the reconciliation. So I mean, yeah, I'm glad this is our interface with this process and it's not that back end of it. But I think from what I'm hearing, Breyer, Gould, Cedar, and Tyler, what the heck? Let's go for them all and see what happens. We can do a little digging. Now, this is due on the 21st. We've got to get this submitted. So, I could just get in there and just start cranking it out. And if we get any feedback too, right, I kind of want to circle back with these specific ones and talk to Mike, talk to Dean, and maybe see if we can get some feedback from the senator's office again and just kind of get a sense on this. But I say go for all four. Well, until somebody tells us no, I guess, right?
Sounds good to me.
I'm fine with that as well. But Matt, for that May 21st deadline, I mean, do you need a vote from this board or any other boards in town for your submittal?
What I would think, I've got the application form. I would ask that, like, basically, if the board could have a vote basically authorizing these 4 projects to be explored, and if viable, submitted, and then maybe authorize Neil to sign the application, something to that effect. So if along the way between now and the 21st, one of the projects doesn't look like it'll fit, we can just kind of take that off the list and just say it's down to these 3 or whatever the case may be.
I'm just noticing that there's a hand up in our attendees.
So, yeah, same.
I don't know if we
I
want
guess
to.
unless this person has something very specific to this issue, I would ask they just hold off until public comment. So I guess we won't know unless we.
Well, so it is the Concord Lake Sunapee Rail Trail folks.
Okay, well, why don't we bring them over?
Hi, this is Tim. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes. Hi, Tim.
All right. So I'll be brief. The town of Warner was preparing projects for Representative Custer's walk through these new generation earmarks. They too were initially putting in road projects, and after New Hampshire DOT got together with Custer's people, the town was encouraged strongly to pivot to putting in a multi-use path project that they had put in for a TAP project for, because trail projects tend to score very well and be very popular amongst constituents. They get used by people from more than just the local town. Senator Shaheen did come to the Concord groundbreaking when we started to construct the Concord Lake Sunapee Rail Trail in Concord, because she's one of the leading people in Washington who gets trail funding for the RTP program. I know this is a different bucket of money that's being discussed, but she's got strong interest in the trail overall and in trails across the state. And sorry for the buzzing there. Yeah, so I think, I know the deadline's very tight, but I've got a couple of meetings set up this week, and I could circle back before the end of the week to let you know if I had a project that would fit the funding range for these for this bucket of money. So that's all I had to say. I can take questions if you have them.
Thanks for sharing that very useful information.
And Custer's list is public, by the way, so we can get you that list of projects that she put forward.
Thoughts from economic development people, or?
I would just ask Tim, could you give me some more specifics on what that would look like for a Hopkinton project?
Um, yes, so there was, back when Hopkinton was considering what to put forward for a TAP project this year, there was some maybe side discussion, if that's an accurate way to talk about it, on doing a multi-use path along the edge of Pennacook Road for a section, because that's a particularly tough section for us to be on the railroad grade. So more or less from the bridge on Pennacook Road up to either Little Tookie Road or up to the corner going in where there are existing sidewalks. That's one possibility. And then the other possibility would be a project directly on the railroad grade. And until I talk with people who I'm meeting with this week, I don't want to go any further.
Okay.
But regional impact.
Okay.
So
I'd be in favor of adding that. I mean, if we have this list of, Matt, did we have 4 already?
I've got so far Briar, Gould, Cedar, and Tyler.
Yeah, I would be in favor of adding, I don't know what the specifics are going to look like, but I would be in favor of adding a 5th for the multi-use trail.
Okay. Actually, Tim, I got a question. Would Craig have more details on this, on if I were to catch up with him or in my office?
Yeah, I think both Craig and Dean were thinking about the multi-use trail on the edge of Pennacook Road. So yeah, they both would, I believe. And I'll circle back also and be very available. I know the deadlines are really, really tight, so I don't want to do anything that holds anybody back. But I have something that, if I can make a little miracle happen, we've got an awesome project to talk about.
So that's great. So maybe we should plan on moving forward with, I don't know what the process is with putting this together, Matt, and whoever else is working on this, but move forward and then wait to hear from Tim. I don't think that, waiting to hear what his info is, I don't think that changes how we move forward with the other 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was going to say, if Annie Custer's list is public and we're not on it, how is it that we weren't asked for any projects from her?
It's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know how the process works.
Someone go over to her house and ask her,
So,
but my understanding is her office reached out to specific towns directly.
Interesting. Well,
I nominate Jeff to go ask her.
I'll do
it. Okay, so anything else on this? And Tim, thanks again for, I don't know where he went. Is he still a panelist? Thanks for jumping on and sharing that info with us.
I think we still need to motion and vote to give Neil that authority to the extent that's needed for these applications. So I would move that, the board support, I don't even know how to say it, would support pursuing these funding opportunities for the 5 items that we discussed, Briar Hill, Gould, Tyler Bridge, Cedar, and then the multi-use trail along Pennacook Street, and also to authorize Neil Cass to sign on behalf of the board for anything that's needed for the May 21st submission deadline. And did I miss anything, Anna?
Yeah, that sounds great, and I'll second.
Okay.
All right.
And
Thank you for
just
that.
to clarify, Stephen, it's any of those 5, so that if the multi-use trail thing isn't ready, we still do the other 4.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Sabrina's a yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you, Dan and Matt, for joining us, and Stephen and Anna, who are working hard on the EDC. Thanks for bringing this to us.
Sure. And I'll be plugging away at this. So Dan, if I could, I may need to reach out to you here and there. And also Tim, I may need to touch base with you on the top secret side of things and go from there. I do actually have a top secret security clearance in another job, but anyway.
Call me anytime, Matt.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
That was painful.
Alrighty. So I think we are done with everything under the public hearing category. And I think that brings us to the land at the corner of Courier and Beach Hill Road.
So town meeting approved the sale of that. I think in that case, the thought was largely because the only one it's useful to is Beach Hill School. So I think it's a question, again, if you want to start negotiations with them. They're the ones that actually approached us initially.
Yeah, seems
Yes.
reasonable. Okay. Do you need anything more formal from us, Neil?
Not at this point. I'll get a proposal from them and we'll put something together.
Okay. That seems easy enough. Okay, thank you. So second item under old business is in-person meetings. So I can't remember if we've talked about this at all or not, but Neil and I did touch base briefly. So just want to hear people's thoughts. I mean, I would love nothing more than to see you all in person. I think we have questions around where we would be able to do that. And I think there's still, good debate around does now really make sense. And I also appreciate that having meetings like this enables, the few people who tune in, but people who tune in nonetheless, they can comment in real time as needed. So there are some benefits to this model. But anyway, Neil, I don't know if you want to share your initial thoughts or one others.
I just shared that I thought if you were going to start meeting in person, we probably should do it like at the Slusher Center or somewhere. I think it's hard to do it here right now because we're set up for the daily separation and kind of the maze that's out here. So it would be substantial work to break everything down for every meeting because we'd have to give enough room for the public too. So, but we have other spaces that could happen. Probably the dining room at the Slusher Center is the largest.
I would love to do that. I think my concern is space limitations to keep people appropriately distanced, us included, because I would hate to advertise and try to have a public meeting and then there's more from the public that show up than can be accommodated and then people can't attend the meeting and then would be forced to go home and watch it via Zoom or miss it altogether. So, I agree that probably can't do that in town hall. If there's other spaces that we can look into to do that, I think it would be great. But I mean, it's a space, it's kind of a logistical issue because it needs to be of an appropriate size.
The school actually did offer if we wanted to use that space too.
I was wondering about that, if we just sort of followed sort of the same model that the school board is following at the moment. They seem to be able to accommodate themselves and any public. And the only question I would have then, and I have the same question about Slusser, is what the technological capabilities are there. If we need to have a setup and breakdown for each meeting for broadcast, I assume that we would use, our YouTube Live as we are doing now and as we used to do in when we were meeting in person back in town hall, at least recording the meetings and things. So if that's possible at Slusser Center and we find the space is adequate there, it seems like that's probably the better route. And then we're not using school resources. I think if we meet at the school, it probably would be on a school tech employee to set up tech for us there, which feels like a lot to ask. Those are my considerations.
Required, if we meet in person, to have space for the public if it's accessible by Zoom for the public?
My understanding of what they've told us is yes, if you meet in person, you have to let the public in, even if there's Zoom. You can't require them to use Zoom. A lot of people may, and it may keep it down, but that's my understanding of what they've said from the beginning.
Thanks.
I mean, I guess I'd be curious to hear, trying to think through, besides the feeling of returning to normal and seeing everyone's, or at least part of your lovely faces in person. I guess I'm wondering what we stand at this point to benefit from moving back to in-person. And I'm inclined to, I don't love meeting like this, but it's worked and I'm used to it. And I assume everyone else is. And so maybe just keep plugging along as we're able to and revisit this, at another time, but I'm open to other thoughts.
I think it's hypocritical of us to require everybody else to work and for us not to get together.
And Neil, do you have any idea how much work is involved for the school, their technical person or whomever to set up for a meeting?
Yeah, I don't think it would fall on them. It would fall on us. We'd bring our equipment, and the only thing we would need is the password, which we have to hook into the Wi-Fi. We'd use our cameras and our Zoom and all of that.
And would that be much of a burden on you?
A little more than this, but it'd be just carrying stuff over and setting it up. If we use Zoom, we just bring the laptop with a camera. The only thing is we probably will get a better microphone to pick up a larger meeting versus now we're all individually mic'd, so we'd figure that out.
I guess my thought would be that we take the school up on their offer.
I think the Schlosser dining room is big enough.
What did you say, Jeff? Sorry.
I think the room at the Schlosser Center is big enough.
As opposed to, so you'd want to go to the Schlosser Center before going to the school?
I think it's our building. We should be in our own building.
That makes sense.
I think I'd want to know, I don't know if Neil, you feel like you need to look into this any further, but I mean, I feel like we just asked you for kind of an off the cuff answer about the logistical challenges.
You did.
So I would want maybe to give you some time to think through that, and to maybe see what the option is at the Schlosser Center and the school. And I would suggest also reaching out to the Municipal Association to ask the question that Jeff did about whether, if we're there in person, that the public is obligated to be there as well, because that could factor into the sizing of, how many people we need to be able to accommodate.
Well, I think the question there is, we have to allow for public comment in real time, either in person or via Zoom. And it would mean that we are all together on Zoom with the public accessible to that Zoom if we are not open. How
If you can still allow Zoom, but if you are all in one location, you need to allow the public to be at that meeting. As many or as few of the public that wants to be in that location.
Right.
Okay, so, does it
And
sound,
you haven't though answered the question that you posed, Brini, which is what is the benefit of meeting in person
That's the
versus?
or from Ken, Stephen and Anna, I don't know if you have thoughts on their comments and your own thoughts.
I'd like to meet in person again if we can if we can do it safely, both for us and for the public. Because I do think, yes, we have gotten very used to doing this via Zoom. But I just think that it's intended for this to be face to face. And I think to Jeff's point, we are asking other people to carry on and kind of protect themselves adequately, but carry on. And I think we should try to do that as well, if we can.
Anna, any other?
Yeah, no, I'm in favor of, again, yes, if we can do it safely and meet all guidelines, I'm in favor of returning to in-person meetings. But I want to make sure that we're keeping ourselves adequately protected, as well as providing adequate space and accommodations for anyone who chooses to attend the meetings. I mean, this would, we're talking about masks and distance. So we need to make sure that we can enforce both of those at our meetings.
All right, so would it
So
be?
if you want, I'll put together a plan and test out like the Wi-Fi and things like that, just to make sure, and the equipment we have. My assumption is at some point we're going back in person anyways, and Zoom may be an option at that point also. So we should be set up for that. We've thought about that a little, but I'll do that more formally.
So perhaps we can plan on meeting remotely for our next meeting to discuss the options. Everyone okay with that? Okay.
Did we ever find out, if we're talking about meeting at the Solstice Center, did we ever find out what the ventilation is like in that space? If it meets the current recommended, cycles per minute or whatever it is that the measure is?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I know they have looked at it and re-looked at filters and all of that. So we can get that information.
Yeah, I'd love to know that that's adequate as well.
What's the windows situation like? I mean, I know there are windows, but if they're easy to open to get a airflow in there.
Well, the dining room has sliding glass doors and they do open.
Okay.
Neil, when you're looking at that, I know on the agenda for Wednesday's budget committee meeting, which is Zoom, is the subject of meeting in person. So could you also look at if there was a 10 meeting committee meeting? Could that also be handled at the Slusher Center?
We can look at that. Hopefully you can hear me with my camera on. And 'cause I don't know why this is unstable. Yes, and my guess is we cannot accommodate all the meetings at the Slusher Center just because there's too many of them as they go, but specifically the budget committee we can look at.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks for looking into that, Neil. Okay, so that brings us to new business. First up is 2021 Select Board assignments. Neil, are you able to bring up the list? Okay, great. All right, thank you. So voted on chair and vice chair. Budget committee.
Well, I'll do it unless somebody else has a dying, burning interest to do it.
Ken, you have it on lock. You're so good at it. Thank you. Unless someone wants to fight Ken for it. I support that. Okay. Planning board, Anna. How do you feel about continuing on?
Happy to continue.
Excellent. Thank you. And EDC reps. Currently it's Stephen and Anna, right? Or who's officially?
Technically it's Stephen,
Okay.
but I just can't drop it. I love it so much. So I go and I participate as well.
Okay.
I'm happy to keep doing it. And I will take this opportunity to plug that we have open seats. And the public heard Anna say how much fun it is. So that should entice many people to want to also do it. So please come do it.
We do such good things.
And Neil, you're doing this, we can't see you, but it's Stephen with a V. But
I was going to say.
I do know that.
Okay, open space has been me, and I'm more than happy to keep doing that. I greatly enjoy it, unless anyone else wants to. Okay. Waste reduction. Is that Jeff? How's that going?
It's a joy.
Are you all meeting regularly?
We meet once a month, very
All right.
religiously, actually.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, are you willing to stay on as the waste reduction?
I'm absolutely willing.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. All right. And sewer committee. Very timely. I believe it was it Stephen?
This is also me. This is a pretty heavy lifting, so I'm happy to keep doing it.
The 0 meetings that have occurred.
Yes. And yeah, and I'm also the road committee, and I'm happy to do that one as well.
I'll fight you for it.
Thank you. Well, tell
You can have it.
and I can partner with you all on your projects. Anna, do you really want road committee?
I don't want to take it from Stephen if he wants it.
Nope,
But I'm
it's
more
yours.
than happy to do it because, as you know, infrastructure
Here
is
we
my
go.
jam.
Yes.
It's yours.
Yes. All right. Is that it?
That's it.
That's beautiful. Okay, good job. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so next up, we have year-to-date financials.
It's about time where my computer should stop. Go unstable. So on the revenue side, I'm looking through land use change tax is great. Timber tax should catch up. Payment in lieu of taxes, a couple of updates. Those bills will be going out, and representatives from St. Methodius will be meeting with you at your next meeting. So to try to get that moving. Motor vehicle permits is good. Other licenses and fees look high. Dog licenses were due already, so that's why. Room and meals and is just timing. Transfer station, I was glad to see that's in a much better spot than it was. It's kind of catching up because we take recycling out and by the truckload. Sometimes it all goes at once instead of on a regular basis. So I was glad to see that. And largely the other income is up because of the libraries pays into that, and they didn't pay until after the first of the year, so it ended up in this year. So that should be up for the year overall. Sewer bills are just going out, so that should catch up there. That is the revenue. On the expense side, IT services and assessor are largely timing. Legal is running over of where it was budgeted. Personnel looks high, but because we pay insurance the month in health insurance the month in advance, that balances out when you pull that out. If you notice, the merit pay has been distributed at this point, just got done. Other than that, everything is running pretty much on. Welfare vendors is high, but it's not as high as it was last month. So that's sort of evening out a little, which is good. Generally, that line has less expenditures in the summer, so we'll see if that balances out or if that's still a problem. And I've gone through the debt and interest, and I think one thing is put in the wrong place, and Deb and I have not sat down to go through that to confirm that, but I think we'll be fine there in the end. I think there's one payment that was put in there that was part of the bond, not part of this year's expenses. So I think that will be okay, but I'm confirming that when we sit down and go through that. I think that's it on there.
Yeah.
Actually, Neil covered all of the areas I had questions on, so thank you for the thorough report, Neil.
Excellent. All right. Anyone else have questions or comments? All right. One other thing that just popped into my head, thinking about meeting in person, just thinking about, I doubt we'll have large crowds, but if we did have people present and we needed to do a non-public at town hall in the olden days, we'd go into a back room. And so just thinking about a place in case we did have public present and we needed to go do non-public, where we could safely do that. Sorry for that random thought. Okay. All right. Last item under new business, alcohol policy update.
So actually, I think Anna brought this forward, hoping to make some changes to allow things at the summer concerts. So what I gave you was the current ordinance and policies. And I was thinking we had left the ordinance wide open, but it isn't. It includes no alcohol in the parks. So, but I don't know what the best policy. If you have a sense of what you want them to say, we can put together a draft to bring back if there are proposed changes.
Yeah, so I think that the idea is to allow for what would essentially be a beer garden. So it would allow for on-site sales and consumption of alcohol. And and I think, I don't know, so I don't know what the best way is to accommodate that, if it involves, a permitting process, if it involves, delineating a certain area where the sales and consumption, I would assume it would involve that. Or if we have comfort around opening the policy up more broadly to apply to anyone, that's okay with me too. But I think if we want to maintain some level of oversight, then it's possibly a permitting situation or, okay. Sorry.
No worries. So, well, Anna is muted. So, Neil, do you know, like other towns? If
I have a bunch of sample policies that I had pulled, and I had intended to kind of look a little more at this and haven't, but I can do that if that's sort of the desire to get it there. I can put some language together that at least you can start looking at, even if it's a permit, and then you can either tighten it or loosen it, however you think you want to do that. But
Okay.
there are some decent policies that other municipalities have.
Mm-hmm. Anna, oh, sorry, you're still dealing.
Sorry. No, sorry.
Is it like
The other parent is home now, so.
Is it for the summer concert series, would it be like local brewers who could come, or like a beer truck, or like what's the?
Yeah. So the idea is local breweries would come.
Okay.
And so they've been doing this. We did this last year, that the local brewers came, sold beer, but it was done on the Riverway property at the depot. And that's fine, it's okay, but the orientation of things, the site plan, the train car blocks the view when you're in the beer area on that private parcel. The train car blocks the view to the concerts. So the hope is that we could move that beer garden area onto town property, sort of probably behind where the new section house is back there, so that you're not taking time away from the concert to have your beer.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be breweries, and then hopefully some hyper local cider as well.
Lovely. Okay, so I'm on board with this conceptually. I think it makes sense, and would be curious to hear other people's thoughts, obviously, but I would take Neil up on his offer to take a look at how other towns deal with this, and look at some other language we could,
And I just think it can't be event specific. There could be a permit that could be given to whoever is doing it. So.
And I'm supportive as well, and I hate to add things to your plate, Neil, but I would just make sure that we check with our insurance provider and see what serving alcohol, if they have any concerns, or if it has an impact on, what we pay in premiums or anything like that.
We're not serving the alcohol.
Well, that's a good point. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And the concerts, the vendor will have their insurance. And so it's been Leanne typically, but in order to have alcohol at the shows, she's had to go through training in order to be the responsible party for alcohol sales on site. And that will still all happen at the state level.
So it may be part of the ordinance that the board can allow it, and then there's a policy that requires they must be licensed and have to have insurance and all the way down through. I think that's probably a two phase type thing.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds right.
And so I know you're talking about, something outdoors. I know there was an issue that came up years ago that people wanted to do like a toast. They were renting the Slusher Center, I think, and they were not permitted to do a toast. So it seems like if we're doing this, we can, I guess, decide which town properties would be appropriate, but I would be in favor of sort of taking a fresh look at how restrictive we are in other town properties. So, I would be in favor of allowing, if people are renting the Slusher Center and they want to have champagne.
The cabin committee has also said at some point they'd like to be able to rent the cabins. Well, the town would rent the cabins. So that's another area that should be included and be looked at.
Okay.
And I wonder if there's a distinction between allowing sales and consumption of alcohol versus just allowing consumption of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So those are probably two different issues.
Yeah. Okay. So sounds like no one has major objections to this concept. And Neil can do a little digging on the insurance piece, and we can look at other towns and how they've dealt with the process. Okay. Anything else on this?
Neil, just let me know how I can help if I can.
Sure, sure.
All right. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you all. And come to the shows.
Yeah.
Great. Start in August.
Okay. Any other updates, Neil, for town administrator updates?
No, I think we've probably covered town meeting's over. That's the big update. So now to start on new things. So that's good.
Okay. So that brings us to public forum. So any of our public who have joined us, thank you for joining us. If anyone would like to speak, now's your chance to raise your hand and you can come talk to us. Well, I'll take that as no one having public comment, but thank you to everyone who did join us. We appreciate it. That brings us to other. Anyone have an other? Oh, Stephen.
Yeah, I do have a quick other. I think the operating budget that was approved included a full-time economic director. And the EDC hasn't had a chance to think about that, but I just wanted to put it on this board's radar that in the future, the EDC may have a recommendation for how to fill that position. So that's it.
Great. Okay. All right.
I don't think it had a full-time. It just had the same part-time for the entire year.
Oh, you're right, Neil. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it was
you. That is a
it was
very,
important.
But yes, that is a topic that should be discussed because our contract is coming up. So
Yep. Thank you for the clarification. That's a pretty big difference.
Okay, so unless anyone has anything else for the good of the order in public, we have two non-publics tonight, and afterwards we will adjourn and not conduct any other business. So if that's the case, then can somebody make a motion for us to go into non-public?
Sure. I'll move we go into non-public session under RSA 91A:3, Roman 2, little a personnel and little e negotiations.
Second.
Thank you. All right, Sabrina's a yes. Ken?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Steven?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, so we will go into non-public, and after that, we will adjourn. So I would say thank you to everyone who joined us tonight.
and Paula is joining us for the personnel dealing with summer camp.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Robin.
Bye, Robin.
Hi, Robin. Thank you.
Hi there.
Hi, we're still
Hey.
recording, and there's still